Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Education meeting for October 25th, 2011. Board is all here. We have been in closed session since 6 o'clock for the purposes of collective negotiations and approval of minutes of 9/27/11 and 10/11/11. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on our agenda this evening is a staff recognition. Mr. Pruneau.
Yes, it's my pleasure this evening to introduce a lot of people who are winners of Those Who Excel Award. And we're going to start off with Meg Shore, who will do the first honors. Meg?
We're very excited this evening to be honoring 4 of our staff members for an award that has not been received by an Elmhurst 205 staff member in the past. It's called the Those Who Excel Award, and it is from the Illinois State Board of Education. I'm just going to read you a brief synopsis about what the award entails, and then we'll get to the individual recognitions of the staff members who were receiving the award, who will receive the award this October, or this month. The Illinois State Board of Education honored nearly 200 educators and community members for their outstanding service to students across the state at the 37th Annual Those Who Excel Teacher of the Year Awards banquets held in Bloomington Normal. The celebration recognized exceptional teachers, administrators, school support personnel, and educational service personnel, community volunteers, board members, and it culminated with the announcement of the 2011-2012 Illinois Teacher of the Year. Honorees from Elmhurst 205 are David Polkow of Lincoln Elementary School. He was the Award of Excellence winner in the Educational Service Personnel category. Stephanie Sparisis of Lincoln Elementary School was an Award of Merit winner in the Early Childhood Educator category. Katie Groya was the EC5 our RTI facilitator, and she was awarded the Award of Merit in the School Support Personnel category. And Pat Masterton, our retired Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations, received the Award of Recognition in the School Administrator category. These 4 will be recognized by proclamation by the Board of Education this evening. The candidates are nominated by their local school districts and/or members of their communities. The nomination includes a brief biography of the nominee, his or her philosophy of education, professional development, community involvement, and their views of the state's most pressing educational needs. Letters of recommendation from a variety of stakeholders are also required. Does this go up any higher? No? Okay. The process is pretty lengthy. Any one of these nominees had to have no less than 4 letters of nomination or recommendation from community members, fellow teachers, administrators, and other colleagues. So the first nominee that we're going to recognize individually is not able to be with us tonight, but Pat, if you're watching from Florida on the beach, hello. Personally, I nominated 2 individuals, and also Marianne Kalis, former principal of Lincoln Elementary, also nominated 2 Lincoln staff members. I nominated Pat Masterton for the Those Who Excel Award because I feel that the Chief Finance Officer of the school district is likely the most unsung hero in school administration. I was continually impressed with the effort that Pat put forth to make sure that the EPERT process was workable for our district. And I watched the tireless hours she put forth to make sure that the best possible choices for students of Elmhurst were made. Her accomplishments time and again were evidenced as Elmhurst received recognition for excellence in financial reporting from the Illinois Association of School Business Officials and was again recognized by Illinois ASBO with her nomination and acceptance of the Ronald Everett Distinguished Service Award. It was a pleasure to nominate Pat for Those Who Excel. And then I'd like to have Katie Groya come up. Katie is the District 205 RTI facilitator. When Karen Sullivan and I started at Elmhurst 2 years ago, we soon learned that we had our work cut out for us with regard to implementing response to intervention. 2 years later, we still have a long way to go, but we've made amazing strides thanks to the tireless work of Katie Groya. When we were fortunate enough to hire Katie in December of 2009, she got right to work developing a procedure manual and professional development modules needed to get our staff acclimated to the many changes resulting from the mandate of RTI. Thanks to Katie, we have begun to implement many changes. We have begun to implement research-based interventions with students, catching their academic difficulties early and avoiding the frustration and reduction in self-esteem that accompanies difficulties in school. District 205 is indebted to Katie Groya for her outstanding effort, and it was a pleasure to nominate her for Those Who Excel. Katie Groya. Now I'd like to have Mary Ann Kalis come up and say a few words about David and Stephanie. Yep.
Good evening. I would like to introduce to you Stephanie Sparsis DeGrasso. Is that she has a new DeGrato. She has a new last name. Who's a second grade teacher at Lincoln, and David Polko, who is an educational assistant at Lincoln. And I'd also like to introduce Kathleen Tomei, who is the current principal at Lincoln School. And it was a pleasure to nominate these two. I'm very happy that the district decided to do the Those Who Excel Awards, because it really gives us an opportunity to recognize some of the great work that's going on in our schools. And when I was rereading the nomination packet that I wrote for Stephanie, one line stood out, and that was, Stephanie Sparsis doesn't rest until she's sure that all of her students are learning. And that pretty much sums up Stephanie. She is a quietly competitive person who is always trying to improve. And when she crosses one finish line, she sets another goal, and she's just always on that road to learning. And like all new teachers, when she started, she had a lot to learn about what it means to be a good teacher. But she never hesitated to absorb new ideas and to figure out what was going to work for her kids. And she quickly learned 3 things that were really important to helping kids achieve. She learned that you have to have really good relationships with parents, because parent support at home is really important for students. And as a part of that, her communication with parents improved greatly. She is I call you a pro at communication with parents. She starts well before school begins. She continues throughout the school year. She communicates with the written word, with email, but she also knows that it's important to sit down face-to-face with parents or to call them on the phone, and her webpage is awesome, so check that out. It's a great communication tool. She also understands how important it is for the emotional well-being of students, and she quickly adopted things in her classroom that would help students feel comfortable. She has morning meetings with students. She has a meeting with kids before they go home at the end of the day. She wants them to feel comfortable with each other, but she also wants them to know what the rules and the expectations are. She teaches them how to get along with each other, how to resolve conflicts, how to problem solve, because she feels that they should be able to eventually do that independently. And thirdly, she knows what it means to help kids learn and progress, all students. So she challenges them, she holds high expectations, but she also figures out ways to work with those kids who are struggling and to get the parental support for them. She assesses them on a regular basis, and she teaches the students how to assess themselves so that they will be motivated by their own progress. And then there's all the other stuff she does outside of the classroom, and all the district work that she's done the last several years, all the work that she's done within the building on various committees. I mean, you name it, she's been there. So curriculum work, power standards, professional learning communities, RTI, CHAMPS. And she told me today she had a district meeting after school, so she just stayed here, and then she came to this meeting. So nothing's changed, which is a good thing. I have told Stephanie that I expect one day that she will be an educational leader in some capacity, and I really wouldn't be surprised someday if you're a leader of your own school. But right now, she's here, and I think that District 205 and Lincoln School are very lucky to have you. And then I reread my nomination packet for David Polko. And in there I saw that I had said that every principal should be lucky enough to have David Polko at their school. And I said that knowing full well that every school is not quite that lucky. When I hired Dave, he had no experience teaching kids, except for his own children. helping them at home. And so during those first couple of years, he had a pretty steep learning curve. But like Stephanie, he's a very quietly competitive person. And he wanted to be the best that he could be, so he always sought out ways that he could learn and do better in his job. And for the past 5 years, he's been a reading assistant at Lincoln and works with struggling readers. And he really understands where those students are coming from. He knows they're not confident in their skills, and he knows that they're hesitant to take risks, and so he really works with them, get to know their interests, so that the students feel comfortable with him. He connects with the kids, which is so important, and he's always focused on them. And one of my favorite Dave quotes is when he says, "The true measure of his being successful is when students graduate out of the reading support program and his services aren't needed anymore." And that really shows a true understanding of his role. But besides working with the students, he does other things. He makes himself quite useful around the school. If he sees a problem, he doesn't just come up and complain about it. He'll say, "Hey, here's this thing that's happening over here. Here's a way to solve it." And a lot of times, he's part of the solution, which is awesome. So he goes well above and beyond his instructional duties. He directs traffic, he supervises kids outside, he helps in the lunchroom, he'll help with all school field trips or disaster drills, and he even started the school's running club, which is one of his passions. He leads by example. He doesn't wait to be asked to do something. He sees a need and he works to fill it. And Dave will tell you that, "Hey, I'm just doing my job. I don't know what all this fuss is all about." But I think perhaps now he understands that he's being recognized because he not only does his job well, but he does go above and beyond expectations. And again, District 205 and Lincoln are fortunate to have you. So.
Thank you all for coming this evening, taking time out of your busy days, nominators and award winners. A couple of weeks ago, we had the pleasure, this board, of honoring 14 National Merit semifinalists and commended students. And it is our distinct pleasure tonight to celebrate the work of 4 of you who helped make that possible. We are so pleased that you have gotten these awards on behalf of District 205. What I particularly like is that these 4 individuals, Pat is on the beach somewhere, are from such different segments of our district. We have the school administrator, the probably least loved school administrator who has to say no to budget requests. She gets an award. We have the educational support personnel, behind the scenes kind of person that is so important to the work of a district to make sure that teachers are trained and trained in the initiatives that they need to know. And very unappreciated, I think, all of our educational support people. The reading aid. A reading aid. If your child is struggling with reading, you want someone like him sitting down one-on-one with that child, helping, listening, giving the tools that that child will need. And the saddest part is that when he succeeds, they don't get to come to him anymore. I don't know how you deal with that, David. And then, of course, the front line. The frontline teacher who every day, for every child, has to pull it all together. And we are delighted that all 4 of you are representative of all of the work that goes on in our district. Just as we have more than 14 scholars in our district, we have more than 4 teachers who excel. You were fortunate enough to be nominated by these fine people, and you got the award, and we certainly celebrate that tonight. But I also want to celebrate all of the work that goes on by your peers in every area of the district. I have a proclamation, rather lengthy to read, and then I'm going to give one to each of you. Whereas the Illinois State Board of Education annually recognizes and honors individuals who have made outstanding contributions to public and non-public elementary and secondary education by recognizing them as those who excel award recipients. And whereas 4 members of the Elmhurst District 205 staff were nominated last spring and recently named as an honoree in the 37th annual ISBE Those Who Excel competition in the following categories: Award of Excellence, of which only 44 were recognized statewide; Award of Meritorious Service, of which 71 were so honored; and Award of Special Recognition, of which 82 were named. And whereas, on October 22nd in Bloomington Normal, Illinois, Catherine Groya, school psychologist and the RTI elementary facilitator for District 205, received an Award of Merit in the Student Support Personnel category, and Pat Masterton, retired Assistant Director of Business and Operations, received an Award of Recognition in the School Administrator category, and David Polko, Reading Assistant at Lincoln Elementary School, received an Award of Excellence in the Educational Service Personnel category, and Stephanie Sparisis, a second grade teacher at Lincoln Elementary, received an Award of Merit in the Early Career Educator category. And whereas State Superintendent Christopher Cook has noted that, and I quote, "The exceptional individuals being recognized this year represent the thousands of dedicated staff members across Illinois who are committed to providing our students with the best learning opportunities every day. We are pleased to publicly recognize these individuals who work tirelessly to help all students reach their full potential. And whereas this accomplishment brings pride and prestige to the Elmhurst Community Unit District 205, Lincoln Elementary School, and to the community, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education and Administration of Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205 express deep appreciation and congratulations to these 4 award winners and for their outstanding accomplishments." Thank you all for coming again. We will definitely understand if you decide you need to leave us now. But we do appreciate your coming out. Thanks. The next item on our agenda is public comments, and no one has indicated a desire to address the board this evening. So we will go on to Superintendent's communication. First item is the school report card overview. Mr. Pernod.
Yes, let me turn this over to Dr. Charles Johns, who will be giving a short presentation tonight on the school report card.
Good evening, dear members of Board of Education. For tonight's meeting, I've presented you on the board docs with the Illinois School Report Card for District 205 and 12 of the district schools. The early childhood program is exempt from this performance reporting in the state of Illinois. This report card is published in compliance with the provisions of the Better Schools Accountability Law of 1985. In case you'd like to check facts, Section 10-17A of the school code. The information contained in the report card was collected by the Illinois State Board of Education, which requires and sets and establishes the format and content of the report card. The law requires the districts maintain these online so that our citizens can view them at their leisure. The report card is currently under embargo. We'll find later on this month we'll see a lot of reporting in the press. The Illinois School Report Card contains a variety of information about the District 205 and each of its schools. This information includes financial information, demographics, instructional information, and assessment data. The assessment data is based on testing done during the 2010 and 11 school year. This information represents a fraction of the information that we shared with you on September 13th. Because we gave you such an abundance of data in much richer detail than what is in the school report card, I chose not to do another data presentation for you, but I can certainly do so if you'd like a repeat of performance. Please note, just like on that night, this data is simply a thin slice of all the different pieces of assessment data and performance indicators that we use to evaluate both the quality of our schools and the direction of the work that we need to do in the future. You'll also find in the school report cards a great deal of financial data. Obviously, Mr. Welton has covered that earlier this school year as well, so we thought that it didn't make sense to review all that again. The timing of the school report cards from the state, a little awkward for schools that are trying to be aggressive in their planning for the year, and we feel that we've already covered those issues in previous reports. Often past school report cards have included the school's improvement plans on the backside. School improvement plans are only required for the schools that did not make AYP 2 years in a row. We only have one school that fell into that category. The state gives a school 145 days from when they get receipt of the information that they did not make AYP to in turn make their school improvement plans. That puts us after the first semester. Now, normally we couple them together so you would have the school improvement plans at this point. However, the state has changed the template that they use for school improvement plans, and they have not produced it for us to use it to make our school improvement plans. My hope is that it will be out soon. We can bring it to the December CNI subcommittee of the board in December, and then bring it to the December, I want to say it's the 14th board meeting, 13th board meeting. The board meeting in December, that we'll be able to bring all of the school report cards, particularly the one from the school that did not make AYP this year. We did not get, the other reason why it doesn't make sense to do the school report card, the SIP plan with the school report card is, as you know, on the next agenda item, we'll be setting the vision for the district. We'll be doing work as a district later on this week to kind of set some performance indicator ideas or to brainstorm performance indicator ideas for future board review. So making SIP plans before having those in mind is a little backwards. So we're hoping that this gives us a little bit better timing so that we can incorporate tonight's thinking with our plans for the district as a whole. We're planning at the end of this week, Mr. Hillman and I and Charles Frandell have put together a program in which we work on bringing all the leadership of the district, all the principals and the central office staff together to look at both this data and some other data that we've collected since September 13th to really come up with a variety of different options for performance indicators that we'll bring back to you. Ideally, they'll be at the November 2nd subcommittee that will be held next week. So with this in mind, at this point, in terms of the requirements of the state, the district needs board consent and acceptance of the report that you've been provided.
Which is lurking in our consent agenda for later on. Are there any questions for Dr. Johns?
Just one, I think, obvious question or affirmation. Even though the state hasn't given us the template, and even though we've taken one look at the data, I'm assuming that we can confirm that our principals and our teachers have as much data as they have. They already have it, they're looking at it, they're familiar with the students that they have this year. They're continuing on an ongoing basis to look at data. So although we might not have a final product, the work is already currently going on during the work of the school year, right?
Thank you, Maria. Based on the September 13th data, which was provided to all the principals, they already began to focus on areas that they wanted to have improved.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. I think I speak for all of us when I say we appreciate that you didn't go over all of the data again. It was a great presentation a couple of weeks ago, and we appreciate the work you're doing with it. Next item on our agenda is the district mission and vision statement review. Mr. Purnell.
Yes, thank you. And if you really like that presentation, it's probably on video somewhere, so you can go back and look at it. Just a reminder. At the last board meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about vision and mission, and at the conclusion of that meeting, the Board of Education had asked the superintendent and the cabinet to go back and do some brainstorming about what might be possible for a vision mission statement. And so based on that directive, the cabinet spent some time reviewing all of the items that were discussed at the past board meeting. And in your memo tonight, we captured those ideas and presented those back to the Board of Education tonight. And from that, we came up with a draft, and I want to emphasize draft vision, draft mission. And it's just a starting point for the board. We have no intention of saying this is it. That's up to the Board of Education. But I think what we were trying to do is try to move this process along and give you some ideas and a starting point for this evening to come up with a vision and mission statement for the school district. If we conclude tonight and the board comes to consensus on a vision and mission statement, then what I would like to suggest is that we take that vision and mission statement and then share that with the constituents of our district, and then get some further feedback from the community, from our constituency, about that new vision and mission statement, and then bring that back to the board before you formally adopt the vision and mission for the school district, so that there is an ownership of that whole process from the community as well as the Board of Education. So with that tonight, we came up with a little different. We looked at all of the vision statements, and we came up with a vision statement that says empowering all students to achieve beyond their dreams. And I know one of the criteria that the board wanted was to make sure the vision statement fit on a t-shirt. So we wanted to make sure that we met the board's ideas and goals. And so this one does fit on a t-shirt. So I want to thank my team for putting that together and just making sure we met the criteria. Obviously, this does not have to be your vision statement, but we wanted to make sure it did fit. So, this evening, it's up to the board. If you want to start on the vision statement, have a discussion on that, and then move to mission. Or we can do both at once. So it's the pleasure of the board.
Any comments on the T-shirt vision statement? Mr. McDonough.
I really like this statement. It soars. It gives that sort of aspirational approach that a vision statement should. And one suggestion, a small one, I'd like to insert the word our after the word all, because I think it gives a flavor, to me personally, of the personal responsibility that making this vision happens, so that we would be empowering all our students to achieve beyond their dreams.
I'll check, but I think it'll work. 3 letters, I believe are okay.
Anyone else? Ms. Hurst.
I like the hour. I think that's a good ownership piece. The one that I'm challenged with is the dream part of it. I'm challenged with dreams not because, I mean, it's very aspirational and it's something that we want for all of our kids. But when I think about the dreams that I have for my kids, the dreams that I have for my kids now that they're a little bit older, and the dreams that they had when they were first entering school are very different than the dreams that they have when they're in middle school, which is very different what they have when they're getting ready to apply to college. And I think the idea that I have, or the struggle that I have with it, is that dreams change, and dreams are amorphous, and dreams are always aspirational. And when we say that we're going to empower all our students to achieve beyond their dreams, I just think that it might be a standard that we, might not be able to reach. And just kind of, how do we measure it? How do we know that we as a district have helped all of our students achieve beyond their dreams? So I just struggle a little bit with integrating, what students' aspirations were, beyond their. I had a word and I had forgotten it, but I think that I just struggled a little bit with tying kids' dreams, because we want them to dream. We want them to think big. Curing cancer is a dream that I would hope for some child. Playing in the CSO is a dream that a child might have when they're in middle school. And those are not dreams that we can deliver on. I don't want to just have it be they've reached the end of their dreams by the time that they're 18 and they're graduating from York. So I just struggled with the aspirational piece.
Mr. Collins.
Can I just briefly take the other side of that? Our mission is to prepare kids for careers, for jobs that not only don't exist today, but probably no one in this room could think up for what is going to exist 20 and 30 and 40 years from now. And we have kids that will form their own career from their dreams. And the fact that our goal is to prepare them, empower them to be able to achieve beyond what they dream in middle school, I think is exactly what we're trying to do.
Mrs. Ebner. Stufen.
I'm going to follow up with Maria and Jim, but first I wanted to thank the cabinet, and I'm going to thank everyone who participates in this process. I'm very glad, Dave, that you brought up not only that we're going to talk about or further refine and discuss the vision and mission, but that we're going to share it with people to get input, because it's really about ownership, and it's really about this is what we all want to aspire and have our students aspire to. So it's all of us being committed to it, being inspired by it, and believing that everything that we do works around it. So I really wanted to thank everyone for that. With respect to dreams, potential, or even a word that I used was aspirations. I know it's hard to measure, and that's a difficulty I have. I liked it for a long time, but I think at some point we've got to be able, whatever the vision is, you've got to be able to visualize it and be able to attain it. So that's what I want us to think about when we, finalize it, if you will, whether it's empowering all students to achieve beyond their dreams, their potential, their aspirations. That's my comments.
Mrs. Ebner.
I like the statement, but I agree with Karen. The dreaminess is a little bit, I don't know if I agree with that word dreams. I mean, I like the second, third, and fourth bullets, about college, career, and life. It's just a little more concrete. And also, if you ask, I just asked a few people that are in, 40 plus, have you achieved beyond your dreams? They don't really know what that means. I don't know. It's just a little bit nebulous of what that means, like beyond your dreams. But I can live with it.
Mr. Collins.
I know the process is that we're going to seek community input, and I just want to encourage that we do that. Maybe collectively we come up with a statement that we all feel is more right on, but I certainly think that this captures a vision for our school district.
Mr. Bloom, you going to weigh in on this or not? Because I am. No, really. Do you want to make a comment? Go.
No, I mean, I'd like to thank the administration for taking ownership and leadership and putting this together. I mean, while we can split hairs over words, think it's directionally correct and would like to get the community's input on it. I mean, I don't feel the need to wordsmith it, at this stage, because I think they've done a great job doing it. I mean, could you tighten it up? Sure, but I mean, I don't know that we need to do that at this point, so I didn't feel the need to take up time.
I have to agree with Ms. Hirsch on the word dreams. I know you don't want a wordsmith, but I do. And it was one of the suggestions that you made, Mrs. Stufen, at our brainstorming session that I really liked. Empowering all our students to excel in college, career, and life. I just think the dreams piece it's not visionary enough, I think is part of what you were trying to say a minute ago. Dreams change. It's not something we'll ever be able to say, well, yeah, you did that. It just has kind of a Land of Oz feel toward it that I don't like. But again, thank you for all of your help. It's not to say, one of you or more of you over there is really liking this word dreams, but I just don't think it says enough of what we really want to do. It's just a little too I think it's limiting.
I like the concept of going beyond. I think that's something that we put an expectation for our kids, that wherever they are, whatever their expectation is, we're going to hopefully make it even higher.
One thing that I agree with the visionary component to it, and I'm not so sure that dreams are, I like what you said, Mrs. Devaney. I couldn't recite it back because I wasn't taking good notes. I think the challenge that I have with dreams is this is something that we are going to build on. This is something that, you know, Dr. Pernod, or Mr. Pernod gave us the question, you know, last time we met about this. What do we want parents to say about the district in 5 years? And I think that's the struggle that I have with the dreams. We are going to build on the mission and vision, and we are going to come up with goals, and we are going to come up with objectives and what we're trying to accomplish as a professional working school district. And in that sense, we as a board have really been struggling, and we're going to be working over the next year to define specific objectives and specific goals that we're trying to achieve. I don't know how we would ever measure being able to go beyond somebody's dreams. I think we need to keep it a little grounded in something that we are going to be able to measure and say, we set a target, this is our target, this is what we're working towards, and we want to go past that target, but I think it needs to be a little grounded in what we're trying to accomplish for our students. I think that's, again, I love the aspirational, you know, going beyond your dreams and curing cancer, but I think it needs to be grounded in what business we're in. Mr. Collins.
So I keep hearing that whatever our vision is has to be measurable. Is that what the board feels?
I feel that you need to be able to be a little more precise. The non-English speaking student who dreams of speaking like her peers. That's a great thing. But I'll bet her parents have different dreams for her or him. I just don't think it's precise enough. I don't know how else to say it other than the way Ms. Hirsch did. Measurable is a little strong of a word for a vision statement, but we want excellence. Go ahead.
So I mean, if you use the word excel, is that measurable?
To me, it's a lot more concrete and measurable than dreams. Because dreams can be at any, people have a concept of excellence. It may not be the same for everyone, but they have an idea of that. Dreams doesn't have that same kind of universal concept in the sense of what a school is going to do for them. Mr. Bloom.
Can I ask the folks who put this together to weigh into this discussion? I mean, dreams is a word that you guys picked. It's, you know, it has meaning to it. I mean, can you talk a little bit through how you arrived at that word and maybe help us out?
I wasn't the only one who liked dreams. But actually...
She really was.
And the haircut's coming soon. I actually liked dreams because personally it rang true to me, because when I first started teaching, my whole goal, you know, in my career was to be an assistant principal. And, you know, that came true about 5 years later. So I think going beyond your dream, even after you've graduated from college, is something that, you know, we want kids to think big, but maybe they're not thinking big enough. And that's where I came from on that one. Gentlemen?
I'll weigh in. My thought with using the word dream is going back to, I think that's a starting block that came from the last board meeting. But the other piece that I would go back to is empowering all students to achieve beyond their dreams. It's students. And at this point in time, I think that dreams are probably something that an elementary school kid could potentially relate to a little bit more than college. So therefore, looking at it from the standpoint of it being student-friendly and something that is encouraging, that part I do kind of like. I do think that this particular statement is very student-friendly and focuses on students, where many of our mission statements and then getting into the metrics about how it is that we are going to measure ourselves, those become a little bit more adult-friendly and a little bit more focused. But to, again, go back to the idea of how much time and effort do we put into dreams versus passions versus college, that conversation, depending upon your want to engage in that dictates how much time you want to spend on it. But I do think it is, for all intents and purposes, a very student-friendly phrase that would allow us to maybe showcase our students in a little bit of a different fashion than maybe focusing on college work or career and life would. Just a thought.
Mr. Collins.
And Mr. Hillman and Ms. Schnorr have inspired me to, you're right, it's all about what kids believe they can achieve. And you're right, you're absolutely right that I don't think there's a lot of our students sitting around going, you know what, I am just going to get all A's in college for no particular end goal. But there are kids that dream of being doctors, and they know to get into medical school they need to do really well in college. And we need to prepare them to achieve that. Maybe one of those doctors will find that cure for cancer. I think of all the things that were dreams, and now that I'm really going to date myself. When I was a high school student, what are the things that were somebody's dream? The VCR, the cell phone, the iPod, the MP3 player, the personal computer. All of these things that, since I graduated from high school, have completely changed our lives. And the list is obviously a lot longer, but I'm not going to filibuster for the word dreams. But I mean, all those things were dreams. And a high school education prepared the people that invented those things to do so.
But most of them dropped out of college. Honestly, I think the struggle that I have.
Born in 1955, yeah.
I mean, I'm not really tied to dreams. I just think that we need to really keep focused on what our mission is. We expect kids to go beyond high school. We expect kids to go beyond. And honestly, we don't have anything to do with a kid who is dreaming of being a player in the NHL. We can't help that kid. I mean, yes, we want them to be literate and we want them to be participatory, but we have to think about what our core mission is. And what our core mission is to create an educated society who understands the democratic process. I mean, that's the reason that public education exists. It is. It has turned out to be aspirational, and it has turned out, since we no longer have a manufacturing force that is as strong as our white-collar force, most of our kids, we're expecting them to go on to college, and so that is our bias. But that's not what the public institution exists for all the kids, whether they are in the transition program, whether they are in our highest achieving and they're taking 5 AP courses and they're getting early credit and early admittance to an Ivy League school. So I just think that we need to be cognizant of what it is that this institution is about.
Mr. McDonough.
That's why we got a mission statement. Okay, the mission statement, if you look at the draft of that, is a little bit more pedestrian, a little bit more goal-oriented and all those things. The vision is just that. It's a vision. I think it should be aspirational. It should lift us up and use the mission statement as something to ground us a little more solidly in more specific goals, measurable, and make it touch things here on Earth a little bit more.
Mr. Boom.
I mean, I guess I look at this as taking the word empowering with dreams and putting those together. It's not guaranteeing the dreams. It's not a one-way thing where we determine this. Is a contract between us and the student, which says that you got to do your part, we're going to do our part, and then the reality of what we both have possible is going to kind of impede on us at some point in time. But it's about giving you the foundation that, I mean, you can take as much as you want. And in our district, I think that's one of the great things about our district. I mean, if you want to be, you know, if you want to be a Rhodes Scholar, that's there for you if you want to work to do it. I mean, you pick it. I mean, you can pick the education you want to get out of this district, and we're going to empower you to do that. And, you know, you pick your dream. And there's no guarantee that you've got a realistic dream or not. I didn't get hung up on all of this because I thought, there's no guarantee of what it was. It was this empowerment. And you guys obviously spent some time on that word because the definition's here and I like it. But, it's about giving you the tools. What you do with them is up to you. What your dreams are up to you. So, I guess I didn't feel, real strongly against this. I thought it captured it. So.
Is there anyone who can't live with setting this, empowering all our students to achieve beyond their dreams, setting that forth to the community? What concerns me more is how we're going to get input and what we're going to do with that, Mr. Pruneau.
Yeah, what I will do is take it to various groups around the community. PTA, as I said, I'd like to review with building principals and staff, along with district leadership team, all those groups that regularly meet, and just share the vision and mission, and then seek their input. Do they like it? Do they understand it? Is it what they consider Elmhurst to be about? And bring that back to the Board of Education. So you're going to get feedback to say, I like it, or, you know what, I have a problem with dream, or I have a problem with one of the wordsmithing in the vision and mission, and then take that and bring that feedback back to you, and then you can consider that in a final determination. So if dream is one of the issues that I'm hearing, then we can certainly point that out and ask those questions. Does that vision statement really reflect what, do you understand it, or is there another term you could be looking for?
Shall we go on to the mission statement, Ms. Hirsch?
I just wanted to clarify. I know PTA Council and bring it to the principal team and the administrators in the district. What about the public in general? How could we possibly solicit some
We
input?
can certainly put it on Talk 205 and say, draft of a new vision mission. If you have a comment or suggestion, feed it back to us.
Yeah, I think we should encourage as much widespread input to the process and really exposing the fact that we're going through this entire process, as a newly seated board with a new leader, with a new administration, that we're embarking on this process. We're doing it on our own, as opposed to bringing somebody else in to do it, which is clearly for several reasons. One, we want to make sure that it's what we believe in Elmhurst, in our community, but also that we're doing it in a cost-effective manner. We're doing it on our own time. But as well that we're including as many constituents and as much feedback as we possibly can.
Mrs. Stufen.
It would be interesting to hear what students' definition would be. So the example is put it out there to students, whether it be elementary or middle school, but even the high school, where they say, what does it mean to you? And the second piece is, as we socialize it with all of our employees, what does it inspire in you to do for students? I guess those are the two connections that I would want to have the conversation, to make sure that, are we getting what we want through this vision statement?
Mr. Bloom, did you have a comment?
The student point was the one.
Okay. Something else?
The thing that I really liked is that not only did you all come up with the vision and mission, but that you defined empowerment, which I thought was really key, because you said empower means communicated not only preparing the students, but also enabling them to use that knowledge and the skills is what we're all about, right, in education, so that they are part of it. And the last thing is that I felt as though all of these definitions, it implies that all the students want to do better, because that is truly the case. If you ever read anything on psychology, kids, children, always want to do better until they are told that they can't. So to me, I really like that because it meant that's really what I think we as Elmhurst are about, and that's what we in District 205 are about, is not putting those impediments in front of them, but saying that you can do it and together we're going to do it to help you achieve it. So I thought that was really good that we got all the extra information.
Ms. Ebner, two quick things. One is when you talk about this vision statement, will you bring any of the other secondary ones that aren't the top one, or just be talking about the one statement, or that's going to open up a can of worms?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think I would just go with the
Okay.
one statement and ask for feedback. Otherwise, I think you're going to confuse the issue.
Right. And then we also have the forum, community forum next Tuesday.
Yeah, you could have it out there. One.
Do you want to introduce?
Invest funding into something that, just for the record,
Do you want to introduce the mission, or do you want us just to go on it?
let me just, the same kind of thinking went into this. We spent some time after Vision then looking at the mission statement. And as I think was commented here, you already got there, this is the more concrete kind of application of what Elmhurst is about and how we're going to go about that vision. And so it's a little more in detail about what we're going to try to accomplish as a school district. So becoming a national leader in educating each of its students, promoting high individual student achievement, and operating under a philosophy that 21st century skills must include self-directed learning, complex thinking, collaboration, producing quality work, and as well as making contributions to the community. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board.
Mr. McDonough?
Having bored my family with some of these discussions already, I'm just going to go in this. After the first one soared, I thought this one had a little bit of trouble getting off the ground. And so what I did was I picked it apart and I turned it into bullet points of all the different components you have. Become a national leader, educating each of its students. And I looked at these bullet points and I said, these are all great. These are all the things we want to do. It's just kind of the way it was put together. And so I think it could be put together a little bit differently. One of the things, I said this before, is the national leader thing is going to be a result of us doing the right thing for our kids. If we do the right things in the kids, we will be national leader. So I kind of put it together a little different. I'll just read it, and if you want it, I don't care. But I wrote, our mission is to educate each student, leading them toward their highest growth and achievement, and preparing them for a future through self-directed learning, complex thinking, collaboration, quality of work, with commitment to human service and community. Confident that total commitment to excellence in all these efforts, District 205 will be recognized as a national leader in education. And I liked the moving that as a result.
My memory's not so good, but as you were reading it, it sounded really, really good.
John, if you could read again, could we try to capture and put it up on the, can anybody type that fast? I can't.
Dave, what's the easiest way? You want to type? Why don't I just email it to you right now, and then you'll have it. Power. I'm empowered.
I liked it, John. I'm not sure it needs that last phrase. I thought you were going to stop.
You should know better, Susan.
Silly me. And I really liked it. I just don't know that we need the final piece. having advocated for being a national leader last week, now I'm, whatever.
I really like what the cabinet, I mean, I like every word of it, of the mission, and I think it's important to say national leader. I mean, every word here, I just feel really strongly about with the mission. I think it's a great job.
I'm trying to make.
Diana's in the back, though. She might have it.
Diana Smith here.
I did like the one that you all came up with as well, very much. I really, I would have wordsmithed one little thing at the
There you go.
end. Instead of making contributions, I would have just said contributing so that it's kind of parallel construction, but I really liked it as well. But I also like yours, John.
The other thing for me important, not only moving national leader as a result, the other thing is our mission is to educate, and I like starting it out with that forcefully. Our mission is to educate. And
To that point, John, I only changed I liked what the cabinet put together, but before the first comma, I wrote work together to deliver a quote-unquote world-class education to every student, and then the rest of it. Because I was the same way, where we need to work together, and it's education.
Mr. Bloom.
I'll just bring this. Malia, are you going to get heck from District 203 for the, most of that?
That's a little bit of why it was maybe sort of awkwardly
It
worded.
looked like you
And
took
when
something you
talk
liked and
about
you tried to
bullet points,
wordsmith it to make it not plagiarism.
And then
but
when you want to throw in world class, I'm over here choking going, we're going to have a
I
lawsuit.
said that. Oh, that's funny.
I mean,
I'll
it's-
just be honest with you.
It's right out of their brochure.
It's right out of,
Self-directed learning,
it
complex
is
thinking,
their
collaboration,
mission
and quality,
statement.
which is fine. I mean, good artists borrow, great artists steal, and, you know, it is education, so.
But
it's
that
not-
was a little bit of the trying to wordsmith it so it wasn't, blatantly like cut and paste.
We don't have I mean, the educational community doesn't have an issue with, I mean, there's no copyright.
I don't believe that this is trademarked or copyrighted, no.
Yeah. As long as you're comfortable with it. It steals a lot from them. It says what we want to say. I wouldn't get hung up on who wrote it. But I just figured I need to throw it out there.
If we're taking this, if it happens to be the same things as 203, I'm not sure, but the things that I think for me are the most impactful, the phrase, that we're educating each student, right, regardless of what their ability level is. I really like that. Obviously, one of my favorite words sitting on the board is growth, right? Okay. Thanks, John, for the shout out to me for the growth piece. But the things that are the most important things are the things that we're trying to teach kids every day, and we're trying to give our teachers the tools to have our students be successful in self-directed learning. I mean, our goal is for them to be able to review their own MAP scores and see where they're strong and see where they're weak and see where they need to improve. I mean, that they're doing complex thinking, that they're collaborating. The only way they'll be successful, moving forward is to be able to work in a collaborative environment. And quality in all work, I think those things, while they might be valuable and be valuable things in 2 or 3, I think those are things that are valuable in life. I think those are things that we absolutely, I have no problem with those things. And I, as well, give kudos. I do like the commitment to human service and community. I think that those are things that are, when we talk about, well, I don't know how effective the character counts, program is, but I know that we attempt, a great deal and spend a good deal of time in our elementary schools working on the pillars and trying to integrate that into our lessons and into our education. And I think I like those key components. And I do agree with Mr. McDonough that the recognition will come if we do the right things for our kids.
Therefore, to Susan's point, we don't necessarily have to state it. But we can. It's long.
But I think the question is, then, should we just test it? Let's see how it comes back. I mean, you can always take a whack at the last 2 lines if you have to, but I think it's good enough to start talking to people about it.
We just had to clean up the grammar just a little bit by saying, our mission is to educate each student, and then you can't use the word them. You can say by leading our students or students toward their highest individual growth and achievement, preparing them for a future. But the first them is not right. We'll let the English teachers work that one out. That's.
Maybe the bigger issue here is this rewrite too close to Naperville, realistically? Well,
Even the first one.
all right. Is there, for the members of the education community at this table, where do you draw the line?
I think we've worked this quite a bit, and it would be a good point in which we test this and get some feedback from the community.
How often have you seen one district borrow another district stuff?
I think we should strive to make it as uniquely ours as possible.
As a group that would be modeling for students, what we would expect from them when quoting and citing a source in a paper, we would probably want to ensure that we were modeling best pieces. And if contacting 203 allows us to be able to do that, and we can give credit to that in some way, shape, or form, then we have modeled the things that we would ask students to do.
I think that's a great idea, and I also think that there is also a lesson in that if the work is done and it's good work, and it can be leveraged and reused elsewhere, I mean, really, it's something that we can do.
Okay, it says the one that the cabinet came forth with, does not have that problem though, right? It still does?
There were elements involved. I mean, the problem is when you start talking about this, if there's good work, like somebody said, you're going to come up with those descriptors: complex thinking, collaboration, quality of work. Now, you know, it's not exactly the same, but it is close, and I would give credit, you know, and ask Naperville and give credit to that. But I think if it captures what we feel about Elmhurst and the mission we're trying to accomplish, then I think you move it forward. Otherwise, you're going to reinvent it, and you may come out with something you're not as satisfied with.
Just so you know, when I took it apart and put it back together, I did not read Naperville's. I had very little recollection of Naperville's. I think it's just one of those cases where heading in a similar direction. As far as using what Naperville has, I'm having trouble with it. So what? You know, so what if we're both headed in the same direction, you know? I mean, when ideas it's fair use, you know? And if we're both headed in the same direction, I mean, I just want to ask if you got a little more, pull that out a little bit more so I can see what it means. I mean, what is the issue with being too much like Naperville? If you don't read Naperville's, you don't know it.
I think the issue is just doing it on purpose.
Right.
I mean, so.
Now that we know.
No, we know that we did it. We know that we used it. To Brad's point, let's model the behavior we like our students. I don't have an issue with using it. I just want to make sure that we acknowledge that so that somebody doesn't go, aha, found Malia was here and she was there and it's all her fault.
She had nothing to do with it.
Right, so, but Malia can make a phone call and come back and look at the little thing right there and say it was approved for use. And, no, I'm with you. If it embodies what we're doing, let's stop there. I mean, why go further? But I'm just saying, let's do that on purpose, though. We know we borrowed some thoughts. To Brett's point.
Yeah, we did. We talked about it in our last,
Malia sent around a brochure at the last board meeting, and this is the mission side of that brochure. Here. I'm fine with it, John. I'm not hung up on it at all. I just want to acknowledge that. Let's make the phone call if we need to and move forward.
I have one question about complex thinking. I always think of critical thinking. So did you all think that complex included critical thinking? But it's just, because, I mean, I had to think about it for a while, and I thought, okay, critical thinking. But then if you thought complex thinking was even beyond that, which is the world is so complex for our students, right? And to Jim's point, the things that, I mean, they are going to have jobs that haven't even been dreamt of yet. And so if that's what you were thinking about complex thinking, which actually is a lot of things besides critical thinking, then I really like it. But I kind of wanted to know it's part of it. Okay, that was your thought process. Thank you.
Serge.
I just have one thing for consideration, and I wouldn't want to put Malia in an uncomfortable position. So that I do agree, Mr. Hellman, that the right thing to do is to acknowledge that, you know, we had some inspiration from this. Ours might end up looking very similar to yours. But I think, Dave, maybe at either the superintendent level or at some higher level than Malia, not to put Malia in an uncomfortable position. I don't think it's fair to ask Malia to go ask her old district, hey, by the way, I forwarded all of the hard work that you guys did, and 205 is now, you know, taking it over. So I just wanted to maybe ask Mr. Pernod if we can somehow just get in touch with the superintendent at 203 and say thanks for letting us steal Malia, and she's given us some food for thought, and it's something that our board also values, and really give, you know, pay homage to 203. They hit it before we did. They had some great thoughts that they put together, and they resonated with our board as well. And that's really a compliment to them, I think.
So which one do we want to put forward, given that, you know, 203 doesn't say, hey, think up your own? Which one do we want to go with? John's or the first one?
It's multiple choice out of the question.
You didn't want to do multiple choice, did you? I mean, these two are so close. The other one had at least a little.
I'll weigh in. I thought this was more student-centered, and it is what we have to do as an institution providing education to the students. I thought the original, which was our original District 205 one, was more institutional. It was how we were going to make decisions. It was how we were going to be best practices. It was, you know, this is more the students. What's the outcome of the institution of education? I guess that's why I'm leaning towards this one. It helps link our vision with student-centered to the mission, which is they can, you know, it's how we do that and help the student, and the student can be involved.
Mr. Boone?
Can I ask the folks that wrote the first one to weigh in on that? What do you guys think of this? And does this still embody the spirit of what you guys were trying to put on paper? And you know, are you okay with that?
I'll throw a comment in over here. I feel like this. I agree. This is, I think, more student centered. It starts right off with the student. I personally feel, just to throw my 2 cents on the table, that if I kind of agree with John that if we do the first part, then the last phrase, the last confident that what will follow doesn't even need to be said. I mean, our mission isn't to become a national leader in education. That's not why we're here. It may come, but that's not why we're here. And besides, what does a national leader mean? I mean, we might have unique things going on here that don't necessarily measure in whatever way a national national leadership would be measured. So I just don't think it's necessary to even go there, but that's just my thoughts.
I think we could solve the grammar issue by saying our mission is to educate all of our students by leading each toward their highest individual growth. And then you still get that all of our, that saying that sort of mirrors what.
Should I make a modification? Each,
By,
two there?
our mission is to educate all of our students by leading each toward, and then can we say toward their highest, right? Individual growth and achievement. We'll keep working on that. Because we've said all of our students, so we've made that plural. Yeah, I know.
Mission is to educate all of our students
I really
by
like
leading
that
them
each
toward their
piece, though.
highest, and preparing them.
I know, I understand that. I just like the each. I like the individuality of the each.
Each of our students.
I'm not a grammar person. Yeah, you guys can fix the grammar, but I do prefer this version. I think it's more impactful, and I do agree that it's student-centered, which is what I think we want to do. And I like the addition of our and mirroring that mission and vision.
We can clean up the grammar. Shall we go with this one? Do you want to?
My last comment was simply, you asked which one we liked better, so I'll just weigh in again. I prefer this one for the sole reason that students are put first, and the outcome of potentially getting to a national leader is put at the end. If that is something that people feel truly needs to be there, it is not the thing that somebody reads first and goes, huh. So the focus is on being a national leader as opposed to educating students. If you're going to keep it, I think keeping it at the end is the appropriate place for it to be and makes it much more student-centered.
Okay. We'll go with that.
One more comment. It's got commitment twice. I apologize.
Malia, do you want to get with the English teachers and clean it up and send it out? I don't think we need to spend any more time right here with it.
Do you want the word passion in there? You were advocating for passion, so.
Hey, I'm not introducing passion at this point.
Okay.
We're going to have plenty of opportunity after we get community input to wordsmith it to death, so let's let it go at this point. We have one other item under superintendent's communication, Mr. Purnell.
Yeah, I would like, we have a new addition to the curriculum and instructional office, and I'm going to ask Dr. Charles Johns to introduce our new person. And she is going to be approved under the consent agenda this evening with board approval.
I am very delighted and hope you will help me welcome Karen Mulatieri to the curriculum and instruction staff at the district office. Karen is the coordinator of ELL and social studies. She comes with an incredible wealth of experience and expertise as a building level leader, a district level leader, and really as a leader in the state when it comes to the affairs and the learning needs of students in the ELL population. It is a real fortunate thing for a district like 205 to have a person like Karen as a part of our staff. She's going to be a real asset. She has already made, probably has already made on her first day, immediate assistance and impact on our district. I'm really grateful that she's with us.
And we feel fortunate because this was a position, as you know, we're just filling this. So the school year has already started and we were really struggling to find a quality person. And Charles had interviewed a lot of candidates and we felt like we were very lucky to secure Karen and make that recommendation to you this evening.
Ms. Boulatier, welcome to the District 205 family. You'll soon be officially welcomed by our consent agenda, but we are very happy that you're here. We're looking forward to great things and look forward to a long tenure with us. Thank you.
And I can give you a T-shirt.
The next item on our agenda is the superintendent's consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda consists of, no, it isn't either. It's the approval of board meeting minutes of September 27th and October 11th. Are there any additions or corrections to these minutes as presented in our packet? Mr. McDonough.
Yes. Do I form this as a motion, Susan?
You can just state what your correction is.
I would ask that in the minutes for October 11th, under board communications, in my comments about the PTA council meeting, I would delete the words infringement on and substitute duplication of, and I think that would better reflect my comment.
Is that change okay with everybody else? Any other additions or corrections to these two sets of minutes? Seeing none, they will be accepted as amended. And now the consent agenda, consisting of the personnel report, financial reports, approval of a donation to Edison School, the second reading of 4 policies that had minor word changes and legal cross-references, and the acceptance of our school report cards. Is there anyone who wishes to remove something from the consent agenda for discussion? Mr. McDonough.
I'd like to remove item C, approval of donation to Edison Elementary School.
Okay, we will pull that out and discuss it in a minute. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda less item C? Mr. Collins.
I move we approve the superintendent's consent agenda, items A through H, removing C for separate discussion.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Moved by Mr. Collins, seconded by Mrs. Stufen to approve the consent agenda minus item C, the Edison School donation. Mrs. Walsh, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ebner?
Yes.
Mrs. Droney?
Yes.
Ms. Hirsch?
Yes.
Mr. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
7 ayes, no nays, that motion carries. Is there a motion for item C, the approval of the donation to Edison Elementary School? Mr. McDonough.
Yes, I would move, slightly amending the wording, that the Board of Education approve the donation of a smart board to District 205 in the amount of $1,326.
Is there a second?
I second.
Mrs. Stufen.
I second that
seconded.
motion.
Moved by Mr. McDonough, seconded by Mrs. Stufen to approve the donation of a smart board to District 205 in the amount of $13.26. It's a slight change.
$1,320.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
$13.26 for a smart board. You like that, don't you, Chris? $1,326. Any discussion? Mr. McDonough.
Well, I pulled this, and that change takes a little bit of time to get to, so I'll try to be quick about it. But I pulled it because I wanted to talk about some of the conflicting emotions, I guess I'd say. The first emotion I have is that I'm truly grateful and amazed by the generosity in this community. This thing cost $1,326, and a single family decided they wanted to make their school community better that way, and they offered the donation. We just approved the minutes from September 27th, and there was a donation, a scoreboard at Bryan, and a donation of 13 smart boards to the Emerson School. And I'm just amazed that the social committee at Emerson did that one, that they got together and they worked that hard to do that much for their school community. And I'm amazed every time the things this community can do. But this came up at the PTA council meeting, is that while now Edison has 6 smart boards and 13 at Emerson, there's only 1 smart board at Fisher. And there's no smart boards at Churchville, Field, Jackson, Lincoln, or Madison. And as important as it is that we don't, as Dave said, we make sure we communicate that we're not ungrateful. We're very, very grateful for this. The conflicting emotion I have is regards the concern for the equity in our learning environment and the lack and a disparity in our instructional environment. I look at the strategic plan, the action plan for facilities, and goal 1 is provide equitable space and resources among all schools for curricular and co-curricular use. Strategy 2, provide equity in general building facilities. In the action plan for curriculum and instruction, goal 3, provide equitable in educational opportunities and resources for the benefit of all students in the district. Ensure students and staff have equitable access to current, secure, and sustainable technology. I'm extremely grateful that we're getting this assistance when we are, our finances are in such a situation where there's going to be hard choices to be made, and I'm grateful that the community steps up. But at the same time, we need to be aware so that we don't fall into this situation of creating disparate learning environments. The first thing, I have a few suggestions, and I'm just going to keep talking here and then I'll turn it off. But the first thing I would ask is that the donor groups, the PTA council on behalf of the PTAs, I think the foundation has an understanding of this, would like them to think about this dilemma, and I'll put it that way. It's a dilemma that we're in about how we can take advantage of the willingness of our community to put things forward, but address the idea that we're going to have different learning environments in different buildings, and that could result in differences as things move forward and how instruction may be structured. Second thing I would like to clarify, and this was the purpose of my rewording of the motion, is that we accept the donation on behalf of the entire district, not simply for the legal idea that, you know, it's a gift without conditions, which I assume all the documentation is written that way, but just the idea to communicate to the public that we accept this donation mindful of that responsibility to create equal learning environments. And the third point that I think we need to do is we need to have a policy on donations that addresses this, that makes sure that when we accept donations that we recognize that our primary concern is that all the children in the district have the same opportunities. But as I say, I'm troubled, I'm conflicted, and I really wanted to bring it up so I could hear what everybody else has to say. I brought it up at the other meeting and it was late, and you know, I feel it's important.
Mr. Pruneau, are we at liberty to change the wording of this recommendation? And
Well, my initial take would be, if you were going to change the wording of this and you're going to accept it on behalf of the district and not Edison, I think you have an obligation to go back to the Edison PTA and let them know that there's a change and whether or not they're still willing to donate it to the district rather than to Edison. I guess my other comment too, I don't disagree, and I think this is an issue the board through policy needs to address. But I feel a little bit as if we're kind of using Edison as an example tonight, and it's not Edison's fault. All of a sudden though, we're rethinking this, and we just, as John said, we approved Emerson just last month for 13, and now we're going to focus on Edison and say, no, we're going to change the name of the game a little bit. So I don't disagree. I think it's a great policy discussion that probably the board and the community needs to have. but I'm not sure it should go about by changing the wording of a donation this evening. So that would be my observation.
Could I amend my motion to restate it as it was in the original then? Let this go forward, but realize that we have an issue to discuss as a policy matter.
Mr. Collins, are you willing to accept that amendment? I'm sorry. Actually, that's not how we want to deal with amendment. You could move to amend it. Is there a second to his motion to amend? Okay. It's been moved by Mr. McDonough, seconded by Ms. Hirsch, to amend the original motion stating that the smart board would be a donation to District 205. The amendment would read that the smart board would be a donation to Edison School. All those in favor of that amendment, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say no. That motion carries. The motion on the floor now for discussion is the original one, that the Board of Education approve the donation of a smart board to Edison Elementary School in the amount of $1326. Mrs. Ebner.
Just make a comment. Okay. When we're talking about being equitable for students, I think this inequity goes even beyond to teachers now, because Dave Smith and I had a conversation about 2 months ago that if a school doesn't have one smart board, like what were the schools that had 0 smart boards? There's 2 of them.
Churchville, Field, Jackson, Lincoln, and Madison.
Okay. So if a school that has 0 smart boards, the teachers have different tools. Their computers are imaged differently than teachers that have a smart board in their school. So it's even going beyond being inequitable to students. Now our teachers have different tools based on the technology in their building. So that's a big issue for me, because now I wonder if teachers even know that they're at a disadvantage based on if their school has 1 smart board or 0.
If I could just clarify or elaborate maybe. If there's a single smart, the way licensing works with smart is if you have even a single board in a building, all the teachers in that building have access to the software tools that come with that board. If you have no board in your building, then you don't have rights to install that software on those teachers' laptops. So you are correct. I just want to clarify that's the way the licensing works.
Ms. Hirsch.
Dave, is there a license per user for smart boards? Is that an additional cost that we're incurring, or is that just the software usage?
Well, the licensing when you make the purchase of the board, part of that, I mean, the software comes with that $1,300 that comes with it. But then they give you the right to install it on every teacher device in the building so that they all have access to it. So, and then I'm not an expert on this. Others are more expert at it than I am, but the tools can be used without a smart board. So what it does is, I think to your point, Ms. Ebner, is that it provides some additional tools, access to tools that other teachers wouldn't have access to.
Mr. Bloom.
Dave, is this something that as a technology department we advocate? I mean, it seems like there's been a proliferation of smart boards, and that, I mean, my issue is, and I agree with John 100%. I mean, I think we've got to get ahead of this because we can't get incredible and crazy imbalances within the district. Although I want to enable and empower as much. You know, if somebody wants to give us money, I'd like to find a way to take it, and then then it's up to us to provide equity. But is there within our technology strategy, it says we would love to have smart boards, and then can we challenge the community to, raise some money, put these in the classrooms, or is this somebody's idea and somebody bought one, thought it was great, and somebody else bought? Are we doing this on purpose?
Well, up until now, it really has been kind of the latter, where it's been through foundation grants, donations, teachers expressing interest, or principals. I mean, that's really it's been more of a grassroots approach up until now, but we are doing more visionary work coming up soon. In fact, tomorrow morning is the kickoff meeting for this curricular technology committee that we formed. So the conversations are going to start about what should our classrooms look like and what technologies should we be leveraging within 205. And so I think we're going to have we're going to be getting ahead of the game in terms of our vision and where we want to go. So we're right at the turning point, I think, right now with those conversations.
Because that's my question, is that the most effective use of $1,300? I mean, if if somebody wants to give $1,300, you say, Smartboard's great, but we've done the research, and the best impact on student growth and learning is this type of technology. And I would envision a day where we have a list of things that on our district wish list, and that if people want to give money, they can go pick off that wish list and do that. I just somebody tacking stuff into our system because they read something about it. I just want to avoid that kind of.
Ms. Hirsch.
This problem goes back years, though. It happens to be this 6 weeks or this 3-month period or this year-long period at Smartboards. But before we brought Dave on, after the referendum passed, we had huge inequities in terms of and very limited access to technology. So we didn't have enough computers in our labs. And then a school got creative and they donated a laptop cart. And so all of a sudden a school had a laptop cart, and the technology department has to try to make up for the inequities as we had funds that were allocated. I mean, this is a historical problem that goes on, I guess is my point. It's not just Smartboards. And I think I agree with you. I share Mr. McDonough's sentiments. I brought this up a couple years ago. Wasn't very successful in getting the conversation going. I appreciate the initiative, again, to get the conversation going. And I think it's part of it is our job to also educate those organizations that are willing to help support our academic mission, our education mission for our kids, in that how can they best assist us, and that we also work with them to explain the value that we have in terms of providing equitable environments and equitable opportunities for all of our students, regardless of which school they happen to attend. It's a challenge. I think we need to work with the PTAs, and we need to work with the foundation. I think we've done a much better job with the foundation, and try to come up with a better way to do this.
Mrs. Stufen.
I would just like to add, I'm very glad that we are reinstituting a curricular technology committee, because I would like it to be driven by curriculum and instruction. As much as I'm a technology geek and a propeller head, I absolutely love it, but I don't want, to Chris's point, right now it's Smartboards, but as we work together collaboratively across the district, not just curriculum instruction and technology, but it's all about the academics and the education that we provide. And what is then, based on what we want to do with the curricular instruction, then what's the best technology? And then, so have the bigger picture so that the PTA council, the individual PTA schools, the foundation, and everyone else who wants to help this community and the students understand where it fits in, that we drive it, you know what I mean? We drive the best utilization for the students and the outcome of education.
Any other discussion on the motion, Mr. McDonough?
There's the easy part, which is the qualitative part, which is simply putting together a technology plan that says this is where we're headed, and that's a real big signal to the community that if you're going to help us, please help us along the road, both in terms of financial and in terms of input. If they got a better idea of something that works. The knotty part is the quantitative part, is the inequities. The numbers get different in different schools. How are we going to address it? Is there some other way for us to even it out in some broad way? I don't know. Dave, when you gave this chart to us at the PTA Council, I thought it was an excellent thing. Maybe you could distribute it to the other board members. But it talks, where some schools have something stronger, they'll be weaker in something else. There's 51 iPods at Lincoln, and Lincoln doesn't have, something else has a 0 next to it, and no Smartboards. So it's really, it's not, you can't generalize that it's working one way or the other, but I think it's something we need to address before it becomes more systematic.
Mr. Collins.
I would like to have this discussion, and maybe this is not the appropriate time or place for it, but just as a few bullet points. There are streams of private money, all which occur at different levels. I think it should be the goal of the Board of Education not to stop any of the streams of private money from entering our schools. And for instance, there are people that want to support their particular building. We should encourage that. There are people that want to support the foundation at the district level. We should encourage that. There are people that have interest in having lights at our stadium that can be used from 5:30 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. We should not prohibit by diverting the uses of those monies to other uses. Now, the second thought that I think we should incorporate in our future discussion is the use of schools as laboratories. I mean, when we decide we're going to use smart boards, I mean, what absolutely clinical proof do we have that those smart boards improve the quality of education? We really don't know the impact they'll have on our district till we try them in our district. I think it's great that Lincoln School has 51 iPods, because if Lincoln School starts outperforming their previous trend in a particular area, and it turns out that we can link that back to the use of those iPods, that is tremendous. Now we need to start thinking about putting iPods at all of our schools. If a school has a proliferation, a critical mass of smart boards, all donated through private money, and we find out that that school is the early adopter and has perfected the use of that technology, well, my goodness, then as technology improves and grows, you tend to get more product for the same dollar. So then, once we perfected the use of that, we can roll it out to all of our schools. So I truly think we should include in that discussion the use of our schools as laboratories through the coordination of our technology department to make sure that we can support all of the things that this private and public money has gone toward. So, but probably a discussion, better discussion at a later date.
Mr. Purnell, what committee do you think is most appropriate to start this discussion?
Well, I think this is eventually going to turn into policy, so I guess I would put it under the Board Improvement Policy Committee and start that discussion there, and at least get some of those elements of what the discussion is going to look like. We eventually probably bring it back to the full board, because I think this is going to have, excuse me, a big district impact on which direction this goes in. So.
The motion on the floor is to approve a donation of a smart board to Edison Elementary School in the amount of $1,326. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. That motion carries. Next item on our agenda is upcoming meetings. We have a series of committee meetings happening. One tomorrow night, the Board Improvement and Policy Committee meeting. One the following night, Finance and Operations. We have a committee meeting on Curriculum and Instruction, November 2nd. The night before that is our PTA Forum, November 1st at York, to which the entire community is invited. And then we have our regular business, our only business workshop meeting in November, on November 15th. Next item on our agenda is board communications. We have one committee to hear from, the Performance Management Committee. Ms. Hirsch.
Thank you. The Performance Management Committee met again for our second meeting. We're getting it down. There's two major initiatives that this group is undertaking. One is the superintendent evaluation process, which we spent some time talking about the process, about the purpose, what our timeline is going to look like. We are working on a draft evaluation instrument that board members will use to evaluate the superintendent's performance on goals as well as some other things. We're working on that. We're looking to bring that back to the full board. And as well, Dave is looking to bring forward a 360 assessment to get some feedback from his peers, a wide circle of individuals to provide feedback to Dave, which would be included as part of our input to all our overall evaluation process. We talked a bit initially about the superintendent goals and objectives. We're working on those, and we're looking to bring those back to the full board for consideration at the December meeting. I think the other thing that we did during the discussion was also talk about kind of codifying the superintendent evaluation process moving forward, so it's something that is standard. It's something that we build into our year-long board agendas, which will feed into the board improvement committee and give some structure in terms of building the board calendar, so that we can have some expectations laid out both on Dave's or the superintendent's, on his part, as well as the board members' part and our role in that. The second piece that we looked at was the district level performance indicators, which we looked at a draft of some sample district performance indicators, which I think we've talked about a lot, and we're looking to implement across all of the major areas of business of the district. And we'll be working on those with our various assistant superintendents, obviously providing a lot of input and trying to come up with those. And then as well, we took a quick look at the principal evaluations that are coming down, because there will be new principal evaluations that are going to be implemented this year. We have some training issues. I think the administrators, the principals are meeting to go over them, and they are probably our first baby step. It's probably not a baby step, but implementing a new evaluation approach, which includes students' performance. And so there will be some significant changes for our principal evaluations, which will hopefully help us work out some of the kinks of the teacher evaluation process, which will be changing as we move forward in time. Those are the major things of the Performance Management Committee.
Are there any other board communications? I received an email from Lisa Finelli, the director of the foundation. She wanted to thank all of us for our support of the Midnight Masquerade fundraiser, which they held on Saturday night. And in particular, she wanted to say how appreciative their board was that we were all there. Means a lot to them. Anything else?
They mean a lot to us.
True. That concludes our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn? A second? Moved by Ms. Hirsch, seconded by Mr. Collins to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. We are adjourned. Thank you for joining us.